So this is Transfiguration Sunday today. Yeah, really. In the church calendar, if you follow the church calendar, that is. Some don't, I guess. But Lent is about to start. And the Sunday before Lent, the reading from the Gospel always tells the story of the time that Jesus goes up the mountain with his closest friends and is transfigured before them. Transformed. It's a way to set the stage for the beginning of Lent and Jesus' walk towards the cross. A moment of revelation along the way that reveals Jesus is the Christ, God's only Son, the beloved. And even the language that is used is similar to the moment that Jesus is baptized. Now, we've been following the Sermon on the Mount in chapter 5, so this passage jumps way ahead. But I need to go over some of the background. And there are some key events, intense events, that have just happened right before this moment. If you back up a bit into chapter 16, Peter makes this profound declaration of faith. Jesus is asking the people who they say that he is. And the disciples give him the usual responses. Folks say that he's Elijah or Jeremiah or even John the Baptist reborn. But who do you say that I am? Jesus asks. And that's where Peter steps up. And he says it. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Now Peter, a lot of times, gets a bad rap in the Gospels. It's tough on him. But at this moment, I just want to stand up and give a big cheer for Peter. Of course, the praise doesn't last long, though, because as soon as Peter gets it, Jesus goes on and he tells them what being the Messiah really means. It means the cross. It means betrayal. It means rejection and pain and suffering, humiliation and death. But it also means on the third day resurrection. But Peter, so sure this could never happen to the Messiah, pulls Jesus aside and says, this cannot be. And that's when Jesus rebukes Peter, even calls him Satan. And if this exchange isn't intense enough, it is at this moment that Jesus reveals for the first time what it's really all about for his followers. If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. And 6 days later, Jesus takes with him Peter, James, and John, and they go up the mountain. And that's where this passage is. It's read for Matthew. So put yourself in the shoes of those folks, those three that went up there with Jesus. Close your eyes if that helps. But Jesus has invited you up on this mountain and wants you to witness this event.
The scripture is from Matthew 17, verses 1 through 9. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, This is my Son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Get up and do not be afraid. And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. This is the word of God.
God of glory, we do give you thanks for Don, but we give thanks for your love. Reveal yourself to us this day. Dazzle our eyes, convict our hearts. Give to us that which we need to believe, to trust, to do your will. And may we listen, truly listen to all that Jesus says. Bless the speaking, the hearing, and the living of your holy word. Amen. So I'm going back to Toad the Wet Sprocket again. I love Toad the Wet Sprocket, and nobody here, of course, knows who Toad the Wet Sprocket is. It's a band, but they had a song. Oh, Kathy knows who they are. There's a song called "Isn't For Me," and this passage always reminds me of this song, because in the song it tells a story of some boys who leave early in the morning before dawn to go check out an old abandoned house to see if it's haunted or not. It's a curious boyhood tale that many could easily identify it with, but as it turns out, that's not the focus of the song. While in the midst of their adventure, at a key moment, the song builds in intensity as the boys witness something extraordinary. A sunrise, brisk and powerful, cutting away the darkness and giving way to glory. The songwriter is left in such a state of awe and wonder as to ponder, is it for me? Now, I'm not sure about you, but there have been times in my own life when I have wondered, is it for me? I think of times I've been overwhelmed by the power of a new dawn, or the beauty of a sunrise, or the serenity of a grove of trees out in nature, far from human hands. I've been to the Grand Canyon. I've seen the magnificent towering redwoods. I've watched Old Faithful erupt into the sky. And I've seen waterfalls that will take your breath away. It's funny how the beauty of nature can help us to reconnect with the glory and faithfulness of our Creator. And I have been to the mountain. I've witnessed the glory of God. I've seen lives transformed, and I have touched the face of the divine. There have been moments when all doubt has gone away, when I've realized my own insignificance, basking in the light of the Lord. I've heard God's voice and been moved, convicted really, to walk in the ways of Christ. These are the moments of revelation, when I see God and I hear her voice, moments on the glorious mountain, moments when the Lord claims my life and I resolve to do God's will. I think back to Peter, James, and John, the inner circle of disciples who had earned Jesus' trust. They were invited to go with Jesus up the mountain. We know that Jesus would often go to the mountain to pray, to reconnect, to seek God's solace and support and direction. And here, these three are asked to come along with their teacher, their Lord, their Messiah. I always imagine Jesus walking ahead while the other three follow 20 or 30 feet behind, possibly even whispering to one another, wondering what was going to happen, what Jesus was doing, and what this was all about. That kind of speculation that can sometimes turn into argument. James keeps nagging Peter, prodding him, figuring this rock has some insight, and Peter is so lost in his own thoughts, he's getting sick of James pestering him and tells him to be quiet. But they're walking behind their leader, unsure perhaps where this is leading, anxious, nervous maybe, or perhaps filled with great expectation and great hope. They make it to their destination on top of the mountain, and it is there that suddenly Jesus is transformed before them. By saying suddenly, I always took this to be that it was unexpected and immediate, with no warning. The passage says that Jesus was transfigured before them, and that, quote, his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. I'm a visual person. I like to picture things in my mind, like in that song, Is It For Me? I always picture Jesus standing on the mountain, his arms outstretched, with this glorious sunrise behind them. Two figures appear suddenly. Again, for some reason, the disciples immediately recognize them as Moses and Elijah, heroes of their faith, pillars really, devout and faithful, who answered the call of God and did their best to do the Lord's will. And these three seem to be in conversation. Peter doesn't know what to do. In our interpretation, we often picture Peter babbling on like an idiot, unable to fully take in this awesome glory of seeing Jesus transfigured before him, bathed in this glorious light of God. We mentioned something about building three dwellings here. Booths, some translations use, or even memorials. I think many scholars have struggled with what to do with Peter's rambling here. But this week I thought about maybe something that may relate to the church today. You see, in the story, Peter seemed fixed on edifices, dwellings, booths, memorials, in other words, buildings. Now, here we're at Hope United. We rent our space, and there's no current plan to eventually to buy a building or to build a building, especially at our current size. We have a hard enough time meeting our expenses as it is, so there's no way that we can handle a mortgage at this time. And further, as the church is so committed to mission, many of us question if such an expense would be justified, because we have to be good stewards of our resources. We'd rather our money go towards helping others than spending it on ourselves. Since I'm in Search and Call, I'm amazed and a bit fearful of how much money a church spends on the upkeep of their facilities. I just talked to a congregation that recently upgraded their building to the tune of $2 million. They had paid off half of that, but left their church with a debt of over $1 million. And I kept thinking to myself, was that really the faithful thing to do? Now, even saying that, I read a little deeper, they use their congregational space to do an enormous amount of good in their community. They have a strong outreach program, they have a soup kitchen and food pantry, ministry to the homeless. But all the same, when I look at all these aging congregations struggling with the decline of participation, they're often faced with the difficult decision of having to choose between paying their pastor a living wage or taking care of their beloved church building with all its beauty and history. When Peter witnessed this glorious transfiguration, Jesus transformed before him, his clothes turned to sunlight, the best he can come up with is to memorialize the moment. That's what Peter does. He wants to bottle it up so that he can keep it on that mountain. Now, I don't think his intentions are all that bad. Don't we want to add some permanency to this Jesus thing, enshrine it, celebrate it? Wouldn't this be the perfect place to worship God and offer praise? And even going back to Hope United, there may be a piece of us or some of us that think that, maybe eventually we might need a new facility. We might want to settle down or build a building or add some permanency to this church we call Hope. I'm not certain if that will happen in the future. But we know that we need to be good stewards. We need to make sure that if we do build some sort of facilities or enlarge or something, that it all brings glory to God, because that brings about transformation. But when I witnessed the events on the mountain so long ago, as we have here in the scripture, I think Peter was missing the point. Moments of revelation are not given to us to memorialize. Like we could somehow relive the glory days or bottle up Jesus so that we could always go back to him. The moments of revelation are given to us, my friends, to empower us, Not to stay there on the mountain, but to go back down the mountain and do the work of the kingdom. To bring that kingdom glory that we had just seen back down to earth. Back down to where the people need to see it and hear it and experience it. To share the gospel. To help and heal. To restore and make new. To forgive and bring justice. To love and show mercy. In the story, God doesn't even wait for Peter to stop mumbling. While Peter is still talking again, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them. And in case you didn't figure it out, God just showed up. The Lord, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, creator of the universe, just showed up. And from the cloud, a voice. This is my Son, the Beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. I always like the way Gene Peterson in the Message translated this line. This is my Son, marked by my love, focus of my delight. Listen to him. Now the disciples, those three, they do exactly what any sane person would do. They fall on the ground. I imagine this, they're laying face down in the dirt, totally prostrate, scared even to lift their eyes. Now certainly there was a bit of reverence in that fear, awe even at what they had just witnessed. But mostly I would guess they were simply scared out of their wits and thought they probably were going to die. But with the grace and love of the tender shepherd, Jesus touches each of his friends, tells them to get up, to not be afraid. And just like that, it's over. Jesus is back to his normal self. They're alone again on the mountain. And with that, Jesus orders them all to keep quiet, sworn to secrecy, until after Jesus has been raised from the dead. Moments of revelation. So what does it mean? When I hear this message, there's always one thing that surprises me. Given that the whole scene is incredibly visual, I mean, Steven Spielberg would probably have a field day with this, the transfiguration itself, the blinding light, the presence and appearance of Moses and Elijah, the cloud filled with God's glory, in the end, it's God's voice. It has nothing to do with what you see. It's what God tells us. It's about what they hear specifically from God. Listen to him, God says. Listen to him. The Lord puts the emphasis on Jesus' teaching, on what he says, what must happen, what the disciples must do. And here I've been talking about the Sermon on the Mount. I said this Sermon on the Mount, you're actually supposed to live it and follow it. Yeah, you're supposed to listen to Jesus on that. But more to the point, the context of this passage, of what had just happened that I went over with my introduction, all in the chapter just before that. We're supposed to remember all that, and we're supposed to listen to Jesus. All these incredible things about Jesus being the Messiah, the Christ, the path that's going to take him to the cross, and then the cost of discipleship, that anyone who wants to follow this Jesus has to do the same. Deny themselves, put God first, pick up their own cross, and follow. That's what it means to listen to Jesus. It is at this moment of revelation that God asks these disciples to listen to the Christ. So where does that leave us today? What about the moments of revelation? Certainly I think in this story that the Lord puts an emphasis on doing our best to live out the tenets of our Christian faith. To follow Jesus and to do the things that Jesus did, to practice our faith. And we've gone through these things before, caring for the poor, the vulnerable, our work for peace and justice. But the other thing is that when the moments of revelation come in our own lives, we have to let them take us somewhere. We have to go down that mountain. We have to take the glory with us. and share it with another world. As much as we want to stay on that mountain, God gives us these moments of awe and glory, not to keep us there, but to give us some fuel for the fire burning in our hearts, to actually let it take us somewhere to do God's will. The gospel, my friends, has never been given to us to be simply memorialized. It's meant to be lived, to be shared. And you can't do that on a mountain. You certainly can't do that in a building. We do that outside of those doors when we share Jesus with others. I pray, my friends, that you will have moments of revelation in your own lives. Times when you feel the Spirit and the glory of God on that mountain. When the Lord touches you and reveals God's glory to you in a spectacular way. But I also pray, my friends, that when those moments come, they will take you someplace. That it will take you to a deeper place. That you will find ways to answer that call, to serve and give and help. That it will lead you to sharing Jesus in this world. Thanks be to God. Amen.